Hello, everyone. Welcome back to End Zone Scoop. I'm Liz. Joining me is my co-host Dayna. You'll notice we're missing Shona. She is currently away on a honeymoon in Italy. So we're joined by a very special guest who, funny enough, is also in Italy. Welcome, Chrissy.
Hi,
Ladies,
everyone.
how are we doing?
So good. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you both for having me.
So good to have you.
It was a crazy week. We have so much to talk about. This week was nutty.
Oh my God,
so
we really
fun.
do.
Yeah, it was great.
It feels like the NFL scriptwriters were working overtime.
Right.
Like, honestly.
The first 2 weeks I kept going, NFL, you're drunk. Go home. What is going on? And this week was no exception at all. At all. Crystal,
I remember.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead,
I
Liz.
was going to say, I remember when we spoke, I think, Dayna, we spoke like 2 weeks ago now, and remember you saying, oh, we tend to know like an NFL team by week 4 or 5, and I'm like, feel like we might know them a little bit earlier this time.
Actually, I don't think we know them at all. I thought we did, but we don't. It might take till week 6 this season. I mean, who knows, right? It's just crazy.
Wild.
Yeah, it is been a
kind of
little
love
nutty.
it.
Yeah, that's so funny. Now, Crystal, when she came on, Crystal is a huge 49ers fan, and but I have to represent. I'm like, it's totally okay. It just, might offend us. But Crystal, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so as Liz said, I'm in Italy. I have an Italian passport and citizenship because both my parents are Italian, but I am originally from Vancouver, Canada. So I'm a Canadian Italian living in Italy last 2 years now, almost. In October, it'll be 2 years. Me and my husband just thought we'd move over here because we work in the sports industry. He's a videographer. I'm a journalist, but we lost our jobs during COVID, and we're kind of like, you know what, let's like look around, look for something new and exciting. And he got offered a job out here. And so we actually took the opportunity. We've been living here ever since. And I just had a baby 6 months ago. So that's kind of cool. Just kind of living our life over here and seeing where it takes us. I write about the 49ers. I do a podcast now this season about the 49ers where I interview somebody from the opposing team each week and kind of talk about the game preview and all that. My whole goal in life is to be a sideline reporter. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Oh, I love that. I'm so jealous. My husband and I want to move abroad so badly. So I'm very envious.
Do it. Honestly, if I could say anything, it was the best thing that we've ever done.
Yeah. We're getting there. We're getting close for sure. We're getting
there. For anyone who's joining us live, we do have a chat function. So if you've got any questions or even just something to say, just join the show, just drop it in and we'll discuss it as it comes. Now, we've got a pretty stacked agenda. We've got a full slate of NFL drama. There's so much unfolded over the weekend, from Chicago Bears stumble against Mahomes-led Chiefs, from Nick Chubb's gruesome setback, the Cowboys fell in Arizona, the Cowboys' epic offense against Denver, can't forget Houston's promising stride against Jacksonville, and my God, Green Bay's like comeback against Saints. So let's dive right into our first discussion point. Is going to be the Bears. They've officially lost, I think, 13 games in a row now. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they blatantly had a very tough game against Chiefs. Chrissy, how do you think the Bears can even bounce back from this?
You know, I was watching some of the highlights because I had NFL Red Zone on. I'm a big fantasy football girl, so I kind of follow all the games and everything. And there wasn't many going on at that time, thankfully. But I'll say the biggest highlight for me before I get to that was just Taylor Swift being in the building, which is pretty awesome. I do think, you know what, I feel like Justin Fields last year, he gave us a lot to look forward to. And I felt like Bears fans coming into this season maybe had that hope and that feeling of, oh my God, this is our year. We're going to do better than we did any other year. And then you see what happened, like 13 games. It's just, I think it's the longest one in the NFL, as we were saying. So I don't really know how they bounce back. I feel like Fields needs to start taking some responsibility and accountability for his actions. But then I also think the coach, I don't know, the coaching situation there is something that worries me a little bit. So I just feel like I don't know, the Bears have it not going on right now. I feel for a lot of Bears fans because I have a lot of Bears fans in my life. My old boss, he's a Bears fan, and he even said like everybody needs to go. So I don't know if I'm on that bandwagon yet. I don't know if it's like, okay, get rid of everybody. But, you know, it's funny. I was thinking about this in the draft that we took Trey Lance, and I don't want to talk about that because it still hurts. I was looking at Justin Fields as one of the quarterbacks that I wanted the Niners to take. And, you know, the last few games and even last season, you look at how he's been playing. I thought there was something in him that you're like, okay, he just needs to turn it around. He's almost there. He has it's almost there every time, right? So I was thinking about what can he do to be better, to improve. And I know he said that the coaching situation is why he's been so robotic and everything, but I just feel like he maybe needs a brand new coach. He needs somebody to believe in him because it's just not there. I don't think it's a confidence thing. I think I see the confidence in him, but I just think it's not the right fit. And whether that means he goes somewhere else or there's a new coach, for me, it's one of the two. And I just feel like they need somebody that's going to guide him a little bit better than what they currently have.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's a few things going on up in Chicago, to be quite honest with you. I think that get it away from the players on the field. There's obviously some massive disconnect going on in that front office. I think that front office I just tweeted it an hour ago. I'm like, fire everyone and fire everyone today. And I'm not really kidding, because at this point, what else can you do to A, regain the confidence of your fan base, and B, know that you are behind your players. They picked these players, so now you're stuck with them. So what do we do with them? And so I think that if you do a massive overhaul that in the front office, where it obviously needs to be done, I think that shows confidence towards your players. Then you have to turn and look at the talent that you have on the field, which there are pieces, but not a lot. They don't spend a lot of money. They don't go after a lot of free agents, although they picked up DJ Moore this year. He wants out already. He's already said it, that it's completely dysfunctional. And I agree with Justin Fields. I look at Justin Fields, though, as almost a Jared Goff. Now think about this for a minute. Jared Goff had some success underneath Sean McVay, but he was never clicking. He never quite settled in. He was always the sore, the thorn that stuck out from the rose of that team. What do? They change him and they trade him to Detroit. And the kid has flourished. He needed something different. And I'm wondering if that's the case with Justin Fields. The weight of the losses and the stigma that he has right now might just be too much for him. And I think it would be best for him and his agent if they said, I'm out. Go send me to the Jets right now. I don't care. Do something else. Give me somewhere else to go, so I can see if I have this talent. Because to be honest with you, had Jared Goff not gone to the Lions, his career probably would be over at this point. And so I think that he deserves that second chance, but I think it starts at the top in Chicago without question.
And also in week 2, we saw Browns player Nick Chubb. He suffered a horrific injury, and thankfully didn't show it on the replay, but intensity move out warning. And yeah, that is not the sight you want to see first thing when you're woken up. Anyhow, Dayna, can you tell us more around what happened, the impact, and I guess what we can expect to see going forward?
Yeah, so I reached out to my source at the Browns, and they are really optimistic about Nick Chubb. So apparently, in college, as we know, he had a horrible knee injury, same knee, right? Dislocated all 3 ligaments, ACL, PCL, MCL, all of them, tore them all, dislocated his kneecap. It was a mess. Come to find out that it's not that big of damage this time. And so if his knee had been completely dislocated, his career would be over. But that is not really what happened. He just tore his MCL. His ACL has been hurt, but it's not torn completely. Now, does that rule out that he's not going to have it fixed? No, it doesn't. They are definitely going to fix the MCL. They're going to have to wait till they get in there to see if they have to fix the ACL too. He's out for the season, but because it wasn't as severe as they thought, they think he probably can come back next season, maybe even a few games into next season, depending on how he heals and he rehabs. So good news for Browns fans, for sure. They thought that they had lost Nick Chubb forever. Great news for Nick Chubb, so that his career isn't over. But it does impact the team, obviously, right? One of the best running backs in the league. They have a couple of backups. So they picked Kareem Hunt back up. I don't know how much he's going to help them, but they keep trying. And then they also have Jerome Ford. They have played okay. Are they going to be Nick Chubb level? No. They're just not. And so they're going to have to lean on that passing game just a little bit more. But they are definitely serviceable running backs. And the fan base is pretty excited about Ford. So we'll see how he develops a bit.
Now, the game between the Cowboys and Cardinals definitely had us on the edge of our seats. Now, Cardinals managed to clinch the game at 28-16. So that was a tough loss for the Cowboys. Chrissy, do you think that the loss was like a result of Cardinals' defense skills, or was it that the Cowboys were lacking in defensive strategy? And how critical is this loss to the Cowboys moving forward?
You know, I was watching this game because we have the Cardinals coming up this week, and then we have the Cowboys the next week. Cowboys are somebody that I've had circled on my calendar even from last year when the schedule dropped, because everybody and their dog was like, we've got Micah Parsons, he's the best defensive player, blah blah blah, and like everybody was going off about him. And obviously we have Nick Bosa, and like there was that comparison between the two. I'm very much team Bosa. I've always been. He's a Niner. I'm not going to cheer for any of the Cowboys. I didn't grow up in the era of with the Cowboys and Niners rivalry. That was before my time of, being a fan of following football the way that I follow it now. So I'm just starting to pick up on how big of a rivalry we have just because of the last few NFC championship games and everything. And I do think that there was a flicker of hope for me as a Niners fan to watch them go down the way that they did to the Cardinals, because they were going off about how they defeated the Giants 40-0, right? And everyone's like, oh my God, Cowboys are the team this year. That's it. Everybody watch out. Their run defense is sensational. Even looking at the Niners, and we have Christian McCaffrey, who's, incredible on the ground. And just wanted to say with Nick Chubb, it is optimistic because think of Christian McCaffrey. He's had plenty of injuries. And look at the way he's bounced back. So Nick Chubb fans have a lot to be excited about. The fact that it's not season ending or career ending, is fantastic. Anyways, back to this game. Yeah, I do believe that the defense is what lacked, the run defense specifically. And I think that the Cardinals took advantage of them, and they found that big gaping hole, and they just went to town. And now, I mean, it sucks because I wanted to play the Cowboys full 100% healthy. Obviously, they lost Trayvon Diggs, and that's somebody that I think he's a difference maker. But for them too, it's not only about him being on the field, by his skill set and everything. I think that he's a really big leader for the team. And so that's something I'm feeling like is missing with the Cowboys currently. And I do think it's scary. I think it's something that we're going to have to watch out. Are they going to play the same way? Like Dak was being Dak. He threw his interception. You get exactly what you expect from Dak every time he gets out on that field. And I'm going to be a little cheeky, but like, that's just how it is. But Joshua Dobbs, who plays for the Cardinals, he looked amazing. I mean, like, he was great. He was, poised in the pocket. He knew what he was doing, especially around that D that we were told to worry about. I wasn't so worried. So that gave me a lot of hope. I'm a little nervous for this weekend because I feel like, we were maybe sleeping on the Cardinals a little bit, and maybe they're starting to get into their rhythm. Maybe they're better without Kyler Murray. Who knows? But yeah, I do think the Cowboys have to, tighten up a little bit. And if they let this one slide, we don't know where they're going to end up in the middle of the season. And Dak might be on the chopping block, and we might be seeing Trey Lance out there. So we'll see.
This game was fascinating when it comes to all the football nerds out there, like the stats guys, because it makes no flipping sense at all. The Cowboys had more first downs. The Cowboys had more rushing yards. I think they even had more passing yards. Let me double check that. They ran more plays, 75 plays to 53 plays. It makes no sense. Passing yards, yep, 231 yards to 178. Like it's illogical. Here's the stat. 1 out of 5 in the red zone for the Cowboys. I think that this is the classic example of a team that bought into their own hype and looked at the Cardinals, and we all like, oh, the Cardinals are probably gonna be the first pick in the draft. They're a disaster, and dismissed them. You can never dismiss an NFL team. They are all professional football players. And I think this completely bit them in the ass, for lack of a better term. But here's the interesting thing. And I think Crystal brought it up, and I think it's Dobbs. That quarterback for Arizona does not look like the backup they took out of Steelers, right? He just showed up the week before the season started, and he is playing fantastically. I wonder if Kyler Murray gets his job back, because right now he is definitely looking better than Kyler Murray did at the end of last year. They're paying too much for Kyler to sit on the bench, but you know what I'm saying? It's going to be very interesting when he comes back, or if they decide not to rush him. Take your time. Don't come back too soon. We'll see what happens. But it wasn't definitely an impressive game by the Cardinals. I still don't have a ton of hope for that team this season, but this game was beautiful.
And speaking of saying impressive offense, the Dolphins, they clearly had a field day against Denver, scoring a whopping 70 points. That's a historic performance, and they recorded 726 total yards on offense. Dayna, can the Dolphins sustain this kind of offensive onslaught throughout the season, or is this a one-off spectacle? And how do you think this performance positions them in the AFC East?
No, they can't. No one could continue that much offense. It's impossible. That they just can't. I think that this game really showed how well run that team is. And as well, Crystal probably doesn't know this, but as you know this, I call their head coach Hipster Homebrewer because he looks like a hipster homebrewer. But Hipster Homebrewer is killing it, and he just really is. And I think that you can see with Tua in his second year with him is really starting to understand that offense. And then there's Tyreek Hill. I live in Kansas City, and Chiefs fans can keep telling me that they don't miss Tyreek Hill, and it's not true, because you would just imagine how dominant that Kansas City Chiefs team would be if they had kept him. But I understand why they didn't, so that's all right. But I think the bigger story here is definitely Denver. I think that we knew Miami was going to be very good. I think the bigger story is Denver, and the fact that this is going to be all put on Sean Payton's shoulders. He was so focused on being pissed off at Russell Wilson and Nathaniel Hackett for last season, and they were to blame and they were the problem, that he didn't bother to really, in my opinion, evaluate the rest of his team. And the defense is crap. Yes, they're missing Justin Simmons, but still, that defense is epically bad. And so until they get that fixed, there's not going to be anything that offense can do to keep them in games at this point.
Yeah, I'll kind of touch on that too. So Broncos, they look like, my dog just, I don't know if you saw his little cone here. He's got a cone right now because he had surgery, but it looks like what I pick up when I go for walks with him. The Broncos are not doing what the Broncos should be doing. And, instead of focusing on how bad they have been and Sean Payton, especially what he said about Nathaniel Hackett, those kind of things come back and bite you in the butt. And it's sad to see it happen, but don't say these things, because look at what happens when you do. The karma comes back. But anyways, for me, I think, and it's funny you call him the hipster homebrewer. He was our little Jedi, right? We had Kyle Shanahan being our Obi-Wan Kenobi, and our little Jedi was Mike McDaniel. And I love him because the story for me out of that, of everything that I really loved, was that he had this incredible glow up. So McDaniel, I don't know if you guys knew, he grew up in Denver. Mm-hmm. He was the Broncos ball boy of all things. Yeah. He literally was their ball boy. He became a coaching intern with the team in 2005. In 2022, they interviewed him for a coaching position, the head coach. He wanted to interview. They didn't even give him an interview, which is ridiculous. So yesterday, I feel like that was a glow up game for him. I feel like it was you passed on me and look what I can do. It was amazing. It's something that you see a hot girl summer, after a girl's broken up with a guy and she just goes out there and slays. That's what Mike McDaniel did. And he put up 70 points, a 70 burger, I called it. And it's the most that's happened, I think, in an NFL game since 1966, which is insane. And so I'm giving a little mini cheer. I love to see our old coaches, have success elsewhere. I'm not one of those people that is ever wishing any badness against any guys who have been on our side of the ball. I hope he does well. And this was him having that kind of glow up game, and I loved it.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because we've talked about hipster homebrewer quite a few times, but I never quite clicked on that name to his face. And when I saw the video last week of him running down the field in a ridiculous manner, it just all started to click. I was like, what a guy.
I'm serious. That's when he left San Francisco and went there, I was like, oh my God, somebody hired hipster homebrewer as a head coach, because that's what I always thought when I saw him. But he's turned out to a fantastic coach, and he's doing a great job. So begrudgingly, I am very happy for him.
Honestly, he's just fun to watch too. And I know he's kind of got a quirky, weird personality, but I
like it though.
What I love too is he totally buys into Tua, and he's given something to him that I feel like we didn't see before, and he believes in him. And I think a guy can go anywhere, and as long as they have that belief, they can prove a lot of people wrong. And I love that. So hipster homebrewer has my heart.
Shifting gears to the south, so the Texans displayed a really strong performance against the Jaguars, and so CJ Stroud, he's had a really good start to the season. So Chrissy, how do you think this early performance is going to help build confidence for the rest of the season, and what did you think of the overall team performance too?
Yeah, so again, this is DeMeco Ryans. He was our defensive coordinator. He's our coach, or was our coach last year with the Niners. And now he's coaching out in Houston. And this is their first win on the season. So, of course, I'm happy for him. It was very exciting to see. And he has somebody, CJ Stroud and Tank Dell, two rookies that I saw coming into this season, again, with my fantasy watch stuff, that I bought into, that I was telling people these are the guys that you want to have on your team, especially if you have, a quarterback flex spot on your roster. CJ Stroud really impressed me. I think he was 20 for 30 and 280 yards, 2 touchdowns. One of them to Tank Dell. And I think that they're just one of those teams that, you know, maybe the past issues of whatever happened, I don't even want to mention that guy's name, how he was there before, and there were a lot of problems, and just the whole organization of Houston needed a little bit of a facelift. And I think D'Amico Ryans came in and did that for them. And you're starting to see the gears moving. You're starting to see everything just kind of clicking. CJ is a young guy that has a very different mentality than I think, you know, his predecessor does. And he's doing his thing out there. And I really am impressed with it. And I don't know, you know, how many wins they're going to get on the season, but just to see them get that win, they gave the game ball to D'Amico as well, which was really awesome to see. And I think that they're letting go of their problems, you know, and they're shifting gears here. So I'm hopeful for them.
I completely agree. I loved this. And I tweeted out yesterday, as I was covering those early games, I was like, CJ Stroud this week looks like an starting NFL quarterback. You could see him every week in preseason just progress a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. He was baby stepping his way up. First game, deer in the headlights, right? Second game, a little calmer. This game, he looked great. He looked so good that the Panthers should be second guessing whether or not they should have moved up to get and not taken CJ Stroud instead of Bryce Young. Nothing. I'm not trying to be mean to Bryce Young. I'm just saying, you know, hello. But the interesting thing to me here is the Chicago Bears need to flip the script and do exactly what the Houston Texans did. They got rid of everybody. They gutted it out. They're like, we are starting from scratch, and it's going to take us 5 years maybe to get back to where we need to be, but we are going to start over, because look what it does when you do that. It gives a new hope to the fan base, and you get these pieces that really start to make a difference. It could be huge.
Yeah, definitely. Let's move on to the drama in the Bay. So Green Bay's comeback against the Saints was like nothing short of a thriller. Trailing 17-0 and then clinching the game 18-17. Like, that is a like fairy tale ending. Like, Dayna, what does this comeback signify for the morale of the Packers? And do you think they've regained this mojo to kind of contend in the NFC?
Well, it's so funny that this happened, because on Saturday, I went to my soccer game, the Sporting Kansas City game, and we were sitting out, we were tailgating, we were talking to some friends who are huge Green Bay fans. And this one gal, she was like, Dayna, is there any hope for Jordan Love? Am I completely screwed? And I'm like, no, that kid is a lot better than people are seeing right now. But you have to remember, Aaron Rodgers, all the swear words, didn't let that kid in the quarterback room half the time. I mean, he was not a mentor in any way. So this kid's learning on his own, and he's doing really well. But what this showed me is there is no give up, which is different than necessarily I think we've seen the last couple of years out of Green Bay. You know, Aaron Rodgers would get real pouty. And yes, he'd want to win, and yes, he'd continue to fight, but there just seemed to be that kind of youthful spark out of Green Bay in this game that there hasn't been in the last couple of years. This also has a lot to do with, God love Jameis Winston, but you also then had Derek Carr go out with a shoulder injury. Jameis Winston came in, and he was not prepared to do that in any way, shape, or form. And so I think the Saints need to. And can the Taysom Hill experiment please be over, for God's sake? I don't know why they keep doing that. But I think this just showed that there is a spark in Green Bay, and that they are going to be, in the mix of this, whether we thought they would be or not. And especially with as bad as the Vikings have been, I think that could be a really good sign for Green Bay.
Yeah, I didn't watch this game, unfortunately, just because I saw the score at first, and I'm like, oh my God, they're down 17-0. Like, there's no way, right? But then I turned back on the game highlights in that one, and I'm like, they won? Like, what? And to see that Love was able to overcome such adversity within that game, I think he had found the end zone twice, right? So one of them on a rushing, one of them on a passing, both times were 80-yard drives, which is insane. But for me, what I loved about this, no pun intended, is that, again, I'm all about the coaches that inspire their players. And Matt LaFleur, I listened to his post-game interview. I don't know if you guys went and saw it. And he sounded like he was just over the moon excited for Jordan. And one of his quotes, he was like talking about his poise and everything, and just saying that everybody in the locker room is going to fight for Jordan Love. And I feel like that really reflects in the way that Jordan Love is fighting for himself too. And so for me, like, I think there's a lot to be excited about in Green Bay. And, obviously you say goodbye to somebody like Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers was the Hail Mary King. Like, he was just everything for them. And now you have this guy who's, learning the ropes, especially what Dayna said. Like, Rodgers wasn't the mentor for him. So he's kind of just doing this all on his own, but it does sound like he's got that coach that's believing in him. And in order to bring back a team from a 17-0 like slight like that, to do that takes a lot of courage. That takes a lot of belief in yourself. And I'm excited to see what Love is going to do for their franchise.
Yeah, I think we're fascinating. They've gone through such transition, haven't they? So yeah. Dayna, you raised a really good point. It just made me think of something. So you talked about how, Rodgers basically didn't let, him into the locker room and things like that. He seems so different at Jets. He seems a lot more caring. It almost seems like, what's changed?
Age. He got old and realized he's on his way out. Listen, I have no love for Aaron Rodgers. I have respect for what he has done for this game, without question. One of the best quarterbacks of all time. But you know how I feel about quarterbacks. And they're overrated. So here's the thing. Here's the thing with Aaron Rodgers is that he left thinking he was going to go save the world, aka the New York Jets, gets hurt and realizes, oh my God, I'm just that dude now. I'm just Brett Favre who left and couldn't finish it. Do I think he'll come back next year because he has to prove a point? Absolutely. And then he'll probably get hurt again. But I called it. I told you he would not last 5 games in this season, and he didn't. And so here's the interesting thing with it. I think that a little bit of his own mortality, for lack of a better word, his career mortality has sunk in a little bit. He says he called Jordan Love and told him, oh, you're doing great or whatever. I'm like, really? Could you have told him that while he was there? And so I think that's what it is. I just think his own age and his own end of his career staring him in the face is probably got to him a little bit.
Yeah, bit of a wake-up call, isn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Which is sad, though, because you look at somebody like Tom Brady, who also had the age against him as well. But, you see all these reports that are coming out now that all, the janitors, everybody that was around Tom Brady was like, he was the sweetest guy. Yep. He did everything for us. He was the mentor to all the young guys. He was always the first one in, last one out, was there for everyone in the building. So it's like, you can either have your age, disrupt you and make you think, oh God, I'm on my way out. What am I going to do? Or you can make a difference in people's lives and make them remember you for more than just football, right?
Oh, completely. Yeah. I think Tom Brady and Peyton Manning are the perfect example of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Be interesting to see what his legacy is in a few years' time, then, won't it? Mm-hmm. Especially compared against names like that, for sure. Right, well, that is all for today, guys. Chrissy, thank you so much for joining us. To our listeners, we hope you enjoyed the show. We're going to be back every other Monday at 6:30 UK time, 1:30 Eastern time. So subscribe. Don't miss out on this. And until next time, thanks for listening.